Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of The Path to 1 Million, where I chronicle my story, my journey to impact 1 million people. My name is Cliff Duvenois. This is episode 42. This one here is entitled France, Cheetos, and Real Estate. I was 30 years old at the time, and it would be the first time that I would be traveling outside of the U.S. borders. To a country that did not speak English. I was going to be traveling by myself. I would be 5,000 miles from anybody that I knew. There was no cell phones. There was no 911. When I got there, I would be totally all alone. I didn't know anybody that was in the country. And I knew that once the airplane doors closed, that I was committed to go. And the whole 6 months prior to that first trip to France, I thought I was ready until I got on that plane. And of course, the voices of self-doubt were screaming at me like crazy. They were like, oh, you got to be crazy to do this. And, why can't you just stay here? And why can't you travel here? And why can't you just do this and stuff and da-da-da-da. And it really got me thinking about the whole concept of self-doubt and what really, can paralyze people from taking action and moving forward. And then it occurred to me when I started thinking about, but, there was something that, made me get on that plane. There was something that made me still go across the pond over to France. And for me, it was something that I had always desired. It was something that when I was 15 years old, and I was speaking to a lady, and she asked me how I pronounced my last name. And when I told her, she said, "Oh, that's a real shame because your last name in French is really beautiful." And I said, "Well, how is that?" So when she actually said it in French, I just was resolved at that point in time to not only learn the language, but to actually go there and do it. The only reason why I didn't go there after that was because I was supposedly waiting for the right one, the perfect one to go with me. But at some point in time, I realized that, I'm going to go. So I just went, and I went by myself, which alone would terrify any number of people. In speaking with people over the years, I've had people comment to me that they are even afraid to travel to another state because they don't know anybody that's there. But the thing is I was reading a quote from Napoleon Hill. He is the author of Think and Grow Rich. That book has sold, I don't know how many hundreds of millions of copies. It's definitely a lot. But he writes in there, what the mind can conceive and believe and the heart desires, it can achieve. And I think for many aspects, especially in my life anyways, my desire to achieve something often outweighs my self-doubt that I might be experiencing, whatever the voices in my head might be telling me. Oh, this isn't going to work. This is going to fail. You don't know how to do this. You don't speak the language. You don't know anybody. So, whenever I walk into a project, this is something that I think that I've always been able to hold true to myself, and in the fact that whatever my heart desires, and I really want to do it, then I will go ahead and do it. It reminded me of the story of Richard Montaigne's. And if you don't know who he is, you definitely know the impact that he has had on our culture. Richard started out as a janitor working for Frito-Lay here in California. And he worked in this plant, and he had a real sense of pride. He always made sure that the floors were spick and span clean whenever he worked. He barely had a high school education, did not have any college education whatsoever. And so one day when he was walking around the plant, he kind of had a thought in his head. And he was like, I wonder why Frito-Lays don't have any products that service the Hispanic community. And that just kind of like muddled around in his head. One day there was a problem with the line, with the Cheetos line anyways, and a bunch of Cheetos rolled off the end of the line without any of the cheese spray on them, right? It was just the crunchy part itself. And they were just going to throw it away. And he, thinking quickly, he just grabbed a bag and filled it full of these basically naked Cheetos. So he goes home and he starts experimenting with different spices on the Cheetos, and he has his friends taste test them and things like that. But there was one recipe that he came up with that his friends just loved. They were like, wow, where can I get this? Where can I buy more of this? And he was like, wow, I'm really onto something. Anyways, there was a video that they watched in work one day, and the president of Frito-Lay's was on the video, and he said, if you have any ideas or anything, just reach out and let us know. So he took that literal. He didn't know anything about navigating the chain of command and going to his boss or superiors or whatever it is. So he just sat down and he just called the president of the company, and the secretary was taken aback by this janitor who just called, but she, for whatever reason or another, she put him through to the president. And the president listened to his idea, like, hey, there's a certain spice that you can put on Cheetos, and just to do this. Now, was he scared? Yeah. But the thing is his desire to have a product that serviced the Hispanic community clearly outweighed any self-doubt that he might have, because he wasn't educated, he wasn't anything else. But then to raise the stakes, the president said, well, I'm actually going to be out at your facility next week. Why don't you come in and present? And of course, like I said, he didn't have a high school education. He didn't know anything about business or marketing segments or anything else. But, he did the best that he could. He put on his Sunday best clothes, went to the meeting, and this room is full of all these people from Harvard and advanced educated people, and they're all about marketing, charts and graphs and things like that. So he just kind of went in there and pitched his idea. And one of the guys in the room, after listening to his idea, one of these, Harvard educated people said, well, how much, market share do you think we can get? And Richard didn't know what market share was. So he just kind of stood back and says, this much, and everybody in the room laughed, including the president. But the president loved his idea. So he said, well, let's do it. And let's see what happens. And then sure enough, his recipe became the basis for Flaming Hot Cheetos, which I know we've all seen at the snack counters at the grocery store. And even then, the other day when I was in the grocery store, I took around and looked, and even Flaming Hot Cheetos has evolved into other things like Flaming Hot Cheetos and Ranch and Flaming Hot Cheetos and this. But it's actually now the number one snack that Frito-Lay's now sells. So if you think about it here with Richard, and obviously that guy, self-doubts, I'm not educated, I'm not, I don't know any of these terminologies, I don't know all these fancy things, whatever it is. He just had an idea, and his desire to come up with a product that serviced the Hispanic community is basically what drove him forward into what he wanted to do. This reminded me of a conversation that I had with Brandon DeVere just yesterday. He and I were talking about my LinkedIn project, and he was saying that he was hoping to get some kind of a training or a tool in place to help his team. Now, Brandon, he has a very successful real estate company based just outside of Las Vegas, Nevada. And he's currently working on building a team that literally has, no geographical borders. He's recruiting agents that work across the country to build his business and help them build theirs. And his whole thing was that, he wanted to come from a place of contribution to be able to help his agents out to be able to be more successful. And he sees LinkedIn as a direct path to do that. So him and I were talking about the possibility of a partnership using my LinkedIn program to help out his particular agents. Because he said something that I thought was really interesting. He was talking about how usually with real estate agents, what they'll do is when they start using a new tool, they start applying the philosophy that they learned 20 years ago or 30 years ago. And people take comfort in what it is that they know, what they've done before. And that's another reason why for so many people, they try to apply what they knew before to any new problem that comes along. And so from their standpoint, it's like, are they using the tool effectively like they should have to get the results that they need to see, or are they sticking to what they knew before? Again, it's one of those things where for a lot of people, it's that self-doubt, like, I'm not sure how to use this, but I know that I should use this, so I'll just use this the way that I always have, versus actually investing to learn something new or to learn a good way to use a tool to drive effectiveness. So an example of this would be, I was talking to let's take a step back. Yesterday, I was talking to somebody who works in commercial insurance, and he and I were talking about the effectiveness of social media and using LinkedIn to be able to get more leads. And we're talking with him. He said, he says, I've thought about sharing articles, but whenever I do, nobody really interacts with the content that I share. And this was something that I talk about extensively inside of my training, is that you have to put content out there that is going to actually help your potential clients be able to solve a particular problem. So the articles he was posting out there was how to find a good insurance agent, right? It was almost like the articles were self-serving. But I told him, I said, because you work in the area of workman's comp, if you start sharing articles with people about how to reduce, like business owners anyways, how to reduce their workman comp claims, that will get more engagement. And you could just kind of see the wheels turning in his head, right? So he was taking like an old, sales philosophy, like, oh, people have got to buy my stuff. And now he's thinking about it in terms of something new. And obviously, relying on what you know before, can definitely help you out. But also at some point in time, it can also hold you back from improving, on getting better, on being able to move forward and get what it is that you really want. And I think for most people there, it's obviously it's a better life. They want better relationships. They want to build a better business or have a better career. So with that being said, once the desire for what you want outweighs the self-doubt, that's when you really start to move forward. That is when you start to either travel or, build that business that you've always wanted to do, or be able to go for that promotion that you've always wanted to have. Another thing that Napoleon Hill wrote inside of Think and Grow Rich was when you're driven by this desire, you develop a keenness for imagination, courage, willpower, persistence, and a creative ability unknown in any other time, which is absolutely true. So anyways, I wanted to share some of those thoughts with you today about the transformation of turning your desires into reality and conquering self-doubt. I hope this was something that you found useful. And I just wanted to take a minute and thank you guys again for everybody who watches this. And I look forward to coming back tomorrow with another story. And I will see you at that time.